Interesting. Within the same month of November, there are two properties that are getting new installments that are tangentially related to Arnold Schwarzenegger, released both within the year 1987. Now, I don't know what I'm suggesting, but something's definitely up. Hi, welcome to Film Stash. My name is Douglas Campbell. As stated within the intro, or, if you looked at my thumbnail, this week I'm going to be covering 2025's remake of The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright and starring Glenn Powell. Now, I like a lot of Edgar Wright's films, particularly when he works with Simon Pegg, so to see the news that he was going to tackle a Running Man remake, I was a bit intrigued. Especially considering that I enjoyed the original from 1987 starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even though it differs very considerably from the original source material written by Stephen King under the title of Richard Bachman, there are quite a bit of elements within that original film that still hit really hard, really hard within 2025. There's the collapse of privacy for citizens with over-surveillance, a bizarre blend of politics and entertainment that distracts the public, and this one's the big kicker. It's the implementation of deepfake technology and artificial intelligence to basically warp reality to whatever you want it to be. That not only spreads misinformation everywhere, but it essentially just makes it to where nobody really knows what the truth is anymore. It's really scary, especially considering that the original book, the year this all takes place in, is 2025. So before we run into The Running Man, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Any help that you could give my channel, I would greatly appreciate, and if you're already subscribed to me, thank you so much. In the near future, The Running Man is a deadly competition where contestants must survive 30 days while being hunted by professional assassins and any civilian who recognizes them. In the end, if they survive, they get $1 billion. Desperate for money to save his sick daughter, Ben Richards, played by Glenn Powell, and two other contestants enter the game. So for Edgar Wright, the director of this film, according to various interviews, this remake, if we could call it that, it was more inspired by the original novel as stated before by Stephen King. According to interviews, he read this novel roughly around the time he was 14 years old, and the exaggerated yet very plausible nature of this dystopian future, it really stuck with Edgar Wright. Fast forward 37-something years later, and this is the biggest budget that Edgar Wright has ever had to work with a pretty sizable budget of around $110 million before marketing and other costs get added to it. Unfortunately, it only made $28 million worldwide so far. Just on a little side tangent here, regardless of the quality of the Running Man remake, how the hell do you lose out to Now You Three Me? For real, it's fucking magician. But you know what? That's a whole other thing. I won't dive into that too much. I was cautiously optimistic for it. I was very intrigued to see how Edgar Wright would tackle this. So diving into the positives here, I really like the world building of this movie. Not only that, I even like the cross-country aspect of the games that was just not present in the original film. It definitely makes it stand out from the original film. It also makes it a whole lot of fun. By having this game span out across the entire continental United States, it just adds more stakes, it adds more variety, the weirdos that you come across, trying to hunt you down on top of the trackers. It just makes it a lot of fun. Not to mention any scene where nothing is happening, it's just, is someone gonna see me in this Where's Waldo map of civilians? Is someone gonna point me out at the end of Invasion of the Bodysnatchers? Edgar Wright has stated his love for the original novel, and I haven't really found any interviews confirming this. I am pretty convinced that he also was deeply inspired by Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. While we've seen this type of dystopian future within YA novels and YA movies like The Hunger Games and Divergent within the past decade or so, what makes this future stand out, at least for me, it's the goofy commercials, the goofy reality TV shows, the weird, YouTube-esque conspiracy theory videos. It just, builds this world in a way that makes it unique from, many other properties that we've seen today. It's sprinkled throughout this movie. Now, I don't know if it's very sad, but it's very Verhoeven coded. It's very satirical. The creative action throughout, the kinetic camera movements, and even Edgar Wright's editing style, it's really exhilarating to watch. And for anyone who was a big fan of the original Arnold Schwarzenegger version, I think it does a good job like standing on its own without heavily relying on that original film. It's very much its own thing. It's very much another adaptation of the novel. And while the performances of the 80s film is very cheesy and campy, which suits the original film just fine, I think the performances within this film, it's like a pretty perfect blend of campiness with seriousness. The acting all around, fantastic. And that's where we will dive into the mix, which as we go on, it gets a little harder to critique this film because you want to critique it as its own entity, and you don't want to compare it too much to the original. Glenn Powell's protagonist, like, you know, he was fine. Like, he has like an everyman quality that I think really suits this film, despite the fact that obviously, you know, he's Hollywood actor Glenn Powell. He's handsome as hell. Clearly, he does not look like an everyman, but he does sell the everyman like type of guy well. And this could be like an unfair detriment against Glenn Powell, and I don't think it's his fault, but the film, it moves at such a fast pace that it kind of makes the audience sort of forget how kind of bland of a character he is. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I think he has a good motivation. It's very relatable. It sometimes is used as a bit of a crutch for writing your characters kind of eh. His acting and definitely the stunts, like, he does a really great job. But there were certainly times within this film I kind of wanted to see how the other contestants like did these games. I enjoyed seeing like the tiny snippets of how the other competitors were doing. It showed you like the fun contrast of this concept within this dystopian world. And I'm not just gonna shit all over the new film for this. Admittedly, his character's kind of bland too. But what made his iteration fun to watch, at least for me, it's just the 80s-ness of it all. You know, it's fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. Big explosions. And of course the one-liners.
Here's Sub-Zero! Now, Plane Zero!
He has like tons of one-liners in that film. Admittedly, Powell probably could have used more one-liners, but you know, that's just a personal preference. With this film trying to be more faithful, I think there was definitely bits of fat that they probably could have trimmed or they could have tightened some elements up of. The TV executive and the TV show host, they're two separate characters. And Josh Brolin as the villain, you know, he plays villains well. We hardly see him in this movie. And that's where I will give like another point to the 87 film. I think it was the right call. They just kind of take these two characters and they combine them into a single entity, into the game show host played by real game show host Richard Dawson. That was the right call for that film. And honestly, they probably could have done the same thing with this movie. Trims the fat a little bit. And my last critique, unfortunately, it's the ending. What is with movies lately where they don't stick the ending? The ending, it's very sloppy. It goes on maybe a couple minutes way too long. But I think the bigger gripe that I have with the ending overall. So here's a slight spoiler for the book and this remake. Now, if you want to skip the spoilers for this ending, skip ahead right here. You've been warned. Now, in the book and film, after finding out that the trackers murdered Ben's wife to essentially give him like a better character arc, he hijacks a plane and crashes it into the studio building that kills not only himself, but the audience and the producer. Yeah, obviously get why you can't do that ending. There's 9 out of 11 reasons why you can't really do that. However, I think that type of nihilistic ending, I think it really would have suited the story. Obviously, like, change it up really makes it stick in your mind. When I found out that, like, they really went there and killed his family, like, within the last act, I was like, holy shit. And the film, it mostly does the same thing, but it's sort of chickens out from it. Ben almost crashes into the building, but he survives. And not only does he survive, you find out that his family survived. They weren't really killed. It was all a trick, you see? And so once Ben gets out of it, he basically rallies the whole nation up with him to sort of take down the government. The problem, I think, is like, you take this reveal, you show this information, and it is kind of shocking, but you kind of take the wind out of it within like the last couple of minutes. And I think having the film jump between him getting this information and jumping back and forth between him and the producer and him coming into contact with his family and then him and all these people going to the studio, it's a very sloppy ending. I think they should have like really simplified it. Like, if you simplified it to this very bleak ending with maybe the little tinge of hope that he becomes a martyr, I think that could have worked. Just use it. Now, I don't think it ruins the film. They clearly pulled their punches. Overall, though, I think this remake was a whole lot of fun. Despite the really disappointing box office numbers, I think you should still check out this movie. Way better than the shitty, like, Total Recall, like, Arnie remake. But, you know, get that shit out of here. I definitely think people will find this in time. I just personally think it's too fun to pass up. So, what'd you think of this film? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Did you like the 87 film more? Comment below, let me know. That's all the time we have for today here on Film Stash. My name is Douglas Campbell, and if you excuse me, I gotta add to the stash.